Minister, South Africa regularly contributes troops to peacekeeping missions in the continent. Why is this important?
Because it is important for the African continent to be stable, for it to have peace, because we know that without peace and stability, there can never be a prosperous continent. So we do all of these things because we are mindful of where we come from as a country. We are also mindful of the conflict which has ravaged the African continent. We are also cognizant of the fact that we need a prosperous continent. So you can't have peace and development and prosperity when you don't have peace. And that is one of the reasons why South Africa is concerned about areas where there is conflict. But not only that, we as the South African National Defence Force, we are simply supporters of and drivers of an implementation of our foreign policy objectives. So once government adopts a particular position on a particular matter, ours is to move in and look at how best to assist government.
You've just attended a double troika meeting on the sidelines of SADC. Can you tell us about some of the discussions that took place?
You'll be surprised. We've been in there for quite some time, more or less 2 hours, but there was just one item on the agenda, and that is the Force Intervention Brigade, which is part of MONUSCO, which is currently deployed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There are issues with regards to some of the directives which have been issued by the UN, and that's what we're dealing with in the main.
DRC goes to the polls in December. Do we say the security situation is conducive to hold those polls?
Well, in 2011, the DRC was able to go to an election in spite of the sporadic incidents of violence in some areas in the country. And it was a peaceful and successful election. So we don't believe that something would stop them from going ahead. I think that if they don't go ahead and have an election, it will create further problems for them. So they've pronounced, there's a date set, so let them go to an election. But we think that what is important is that we have to ensure that there is proper monitoring of that situation, that all the forces which are there currently on deployment should be quite vigilant, so that you do not have a situation of people who will want to cause further instability so that the election is postponed.
There will be a meeting at the United Nations General Assembly on the sidelines with the Permanent Five and the Secretary General, just to discuss the SADC Force Intervention Brigade. Can you tell us about the preparations of that particular meeting?
Well, we've just agreed now as well. There's a proposal which we put on the table, which is that there should be a double troika meeting on the sidelines of UNGA, where ministers will invite, and the Executive Secretary will invite the TPKO, so that they are part of that meeting, so that they can have a feel of how we feel about that situation, and some even including how we feel about some of the decisions which are unilateral, which they have taken, which they seek to implement, and in the course of that, creating problems for us. Truth of the matter is, we will meet on the sidelines of UNGA as ministers. We'll propose a meeting with DPKO. Equally, we will support, of course, that meeting which is being initiated. But it should only be after, of course, the meeting of the ministers, just to engage with the DPKO on some of the issues. Now, people need to understand that much as we are deployed here as ministers of defense, I'm deployed as a minister of defense. We deploy forces, Commander-in-Chief deploys, and you are there all the time to give whatever support to the units which are deployed. But equally, it is our responsibility as ministers of defense to make sure that no body bags return to South Africa. So whatever decisions which are taken which relate to the Force Intervention Brigade, it is in my interest to be attentive, to scrutinize and see whether those decisions will not disadvantage the Force Intervention Brigade and put them in a vulnerable situation. So I know that because somebody was saying, you know, the Ministers of Defense can be very on these matters, and I'm saying you need to understand we deploy, but equally we have a responsibility. By deploying, you're not saying people should go and die. You have to take all the necessary steps and decisions which will make sure that you do not suffer casualties in a war.
Lastly, Minister, coming out of Angola from the Ministerial Committee of the organ, the issue of Madagascar and Lesotho did come up. Do we have any updates on the situation in those particular countries?
Well, those matters will be discussed by the heads of state. There was a briefing which was given to the meeting on the state of affairs in Madagascar. There was a discussion also briefly on Lesotho. But it was just, these are matters which will be tabled before the troika meeting, which will be held tomorrow, of the heads of state. So the heads of state will discuss those issues and take decisions, and ours will be to implement their decisions.
Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.